On this week's episode, we're going to discuss how emojis are dangerous. No, seriously, not just the poop emoji, like all of them. Deadly.
Wow.
This makes me really sad because I actually love emojis. But yes, for real, we are going to let you know about how emojis may kill you. But first, welcome to Destination Linux, your favorite video podcast. My name is Jill.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Michael.
We're also going to cover Google's Pixel 8 and why you might want to consider this phone. Plus, we got some Linux gaming and our software spotlight and more. Now, let's get the show on the road toward Destination Linux.
Our feedback this week comes from Ian. He says 2K and 2080p are synonymous. Starting with 4K, companies started basing their resolutions off of the higher number, 1080 by 1920 equals 1080p, or 2K. 2160 by 3840 equals 4K. Apple distorts the ARM specs in their chips by prioritizing only the functions, instructions they use. Remember, you can only develop for Apple in their own compiler. They can safely downrate any instructions they don't use. So, very interesting commentary here. I don't necessarily disagree with anything here. The entire industry of companies that make televisions and monitors are constantly trying to mislead consumers with confusing terms and specs. And for those who don't know, Ian is referring to an episode where Michael was really hard on 1920 by 1080.
Brian likes to make up things about me.
Yes. And so that's what he's referring to. And it's a real shame because honestly, even those who are educated and go and learn about the different resolutions and things can be misled because the manufacturers get so tricky in the terms that they use and what they call 2K and 4K and things.
And they come up with new ways to describe things all the time.
Oh my gosh. Like for instance, one of the examples that always sticks out that I think perfectly kind of encapsulates not just the issues with resolution, but everything in televisions is the hertz. Mm-hmm. So televisions say they're 120 hertz motion rate and write 120 hertz all over the box of the television. So you've got a friend, he's like, hey, you watch sports a lot. You definitely want 120 hertz. So you don't have that blur. So you see the TV you want, it says 120 hertz. So you think it's 120 hertz. And they create a bunch of terms for this. Like all of them do it. LG's got true motion. Sony's got motion flow. Samsung's got motion rate. Vizio's got clear action. And TCL has clear motion index. And that's basically their ways of utilizing software to try to make it like 120 hertz, but it's not actually running at 120 hertz.
The actual term is refresh rate. And if it says 120 hertz refresh rate, that's a good thing. But they don't have that, so they manipulate it so they can make it seem like it's 120, and that way they can market it as 120. And they've been doing this sort of thing for who knows. It's like that 1 to 1 million dynamic contrast ratio, which means absolutely nothing. And you could just that mark is just marketing spiel. Like it absolutely does nothing to the TV. There's no difference. But they put it on there because it sounds good. Oh, that's 1,000,000 to 1. That must be amazing.
Yeah.
So annoying. Well, one of my annoyances, Michael, is among manufacturers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she said one of my annoyances, and then Michael.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Jill.
I was like,
I'm sorry, Michael. I interrupted you. You go ahead.
No. You're good. You're fine. It just felt like you were saying I was the.
No.
Besides Michael, Jill, what else annoys you?
Yeah.
Besides Michael.
Sorry. So that's funny. One of my annoyances among manufacturers is that they state that 4K or 4K Ultra HD is a resolution of 2160 by 3840. But in reality, it should be 2160 by 4096, which is actually true 4K resolution.
Right.
Now, granted, this is mostly due to complying with that 16:9 aspect ratio. But I've been actually told by several people in the industry that it was also due to lowering the costs to make 4K TVs and monitor panels. They saved a few bucks.
For sure. I mean, that is definitely clear what they're doing. But because When you say like the 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K, 8K, 12K, whatever, it's all based on the concept of like it's close enough to that, so we count it. So
Yeah.
like the 3840 is actually not as close as 1920 is to 2K, but this was like the 1080p and 1440p are like the last versions that are using that terminology. Like the 2K and the 4K and all that sort of stuff kind of took over. It's because they weren't really paying attention to that aspect of it. They were originally talking about how, you have 720, which is technically HD, and then they made 1080p, which is full HD, which is also annoying because people use that term full HD to suggest that there is nothing bigger. And then they have the 1440 was because that was just like the next step. But once they realized, oh, wait, 4K sounds a lot better, they started remarketing things as 2K and 2.5K and whatever. And this is definitely an annoying thing. But at the same time, our point wasn't really about the 1080p being bad. It was about spending $1,200 and still getting 1080p. Like that's the kind of thing. Like if you're doing like a budget build, it's totally fine. It's the fact that if you're doing like a high end, just like the product, you would expect more than just 1080p.
Well, yeah, and the panel too. And by the way, during this discussion that we had this conversation was when we were talking about Tuxedo, who, for instance, their Sierra 16 is 2560 by 1440, 165 hertz and 100% RGB panel.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's a 1440p right there.
Yeah, their Stellaris 16 is 2560 by 1600, 16 by 10, 240 hertz screen. So they're putting very high quality, good screens into their computers there. And, that's the only factors, of course, the type of panel and things. But having seen these devices, they put very high quality screens in them like Apple does. And that was our comparison there. Now, going back into Apple, you mentioned that they kind of manipulate the specs to make the ARM processor work better with the battery life. And I guess my response to that is, yeah, of course they do. Why would they not? Like,
sure.
I mean, this is to me what has made Apple stand out from the competition. And you also see this, by the way, in power management in Windows machines that aren't ARM. For instance, there was somebody on X or Twitter, or whatever the heck they call it these days, that was talking about how bad PCs are just today with their laptop because they had it plugged in, then they unplugged it, they went to sleep for 8 hours, woke up, and the battery was dead. So the whole point is when you shut the lid on your laptop, it should go into some power management mode and not be utilizing enough resources to kill an entire battery off. But I've had PC laptops, Lenovo's and others, that you can let sit overnight with the lid closed and you wake up and it'll use some battery life, but it will have battery left in it. So these are different manufacturers who are utilizing different power management per their hardware to basically, and this new laptop this person was talking about was a new Intel Ultra, by the way, that had basically utilized all of the battery overnight. So I think a lot of this does have to do with what the manufacturers are, how they're customizing power management in Windows, because it's terrible by default. And some manufacturers go in there and adjust this stuff accordingly, much like Apple has here. So I don't know if I can I don't know if it's like you were trying to say it in a negative way or not, but I mean, I would expect Apple to do that. And they did it very well for their stuff.
Yeah, I think that they're saying is probably, because of the fact that they have the ability to control the hardware and the software, that maybe that's why the battery life is so good compared to other things who don't have that much control. And I think that's a fair point, but also it makes sense that they would do that and they should do that, because if you control the whole stack, you should optimize the whole stack. And that's the most logical thing to do as a business and you're selling a product. So it makes sense. And it is important to note that when you're creating a product that is compared to something else, you have to get somewhere near that if you're going to compete. And the problem is that we've had a lot of these hardware, these laptops that aren't even close to competing in terms of like maybe at best 6 hours of battery life. And that is just unfortunate. But there's also been a ton of improvements on the x86 side to like overall, increase the battery life. But we're still looking at like, half what a MacBook has with the M chips and stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily saying that ARM is the way forward, is the best option. I mean, the RISC-V stuff is very compelling.
It's coming,
and,
yes.
And there are people who are working on that. So we actually just found out recently that Framework is working on that, which is super exciting.
Now that's a company I can get behind.
Yeah.
Framework all the way.
Framework 13 motherboard.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And it's interesting because this could be like a big deal. If they're able to push that and get that to be popular in the Windows space, then that would be a very good competitor to the M chips. And, provided that they are expanding on the performance and all that, because they have the ability to do good battery life because of the way they're structured. So I think that there's a lot of potential here. And I think your point about the monitors being technically 2K and whatever is all like marketing spend stuff, that's true. But at the same time, we were just talking about like, the 1080p is the baseline now. And it used to be 1366 by 768. I mean, it's the baseline that people use for, like budget
for years.
laptops.
Yeah. But at this point, if you're buying a new laptop, I'm not saying, because people get this confused in the comments all the time. We're talking about brand new laptops. You go to a laptop and you buy $1,000+ laptop. So you're in the same price range as a Mac. That's very specific to what we're talking about. If you use 1920 by 1080 on all your computers at home, and it wasn't a brand new one you purchased last month, then we're not talking about you. We're talking about the brand new laptops, to be very
it's like a $500 laptop. That's totally fine to be 1080p.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Cut costs and a monitor.
Chromebook.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing about like when people talk about pricing and stuff, like the cost of these laptops that we're talking about are on the same tier that the MacBooks are. And if you're going to be compared to the MacBook because you're in the same price range, you have to basically
deliver.
You have to get a compelling reason for someone to choose your device. Yeah. It's the same thing with like this smartphones. If you have a smartphone that's in the same tier of price that the iPhone is, you have to have a compelling reason for someone to choose that over this.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Tuxedo here. Here's another compelling statement from Tuxedo. I was looking at their specs, when I was looking at the resolution and things here. And one of the things they say is an 80 watt-hour battery, but in parentheses it said screwed inside. So instead of gluing their battery down, so it's very difficult to replace, they actually advertise that you can just remove some screws and replace the battery.
I like that.
Which I think is pretty dope. I like that. Yeah. So very good job, Tuxedo, and very bad job for all the manufacturers out there trying to fool people all of the time. But if you want to send in your comments, maybe you have some thoughts on this or another matter, you need to go to destinationlinux.net/comments. We'd love to hear from you. We always learn new things and love commenting on your thoughts on the show.
This episode of Destination Linux is brought to you by Kolide. In a perfect world, end users would only work on managed devices with IT-approved apps. But the BYOD, or the Bring Your Own Device trend, is here and it's here to stay. It's been in full swing for quite a while. Employees use their personal devices and unapproved apps that aren't protected by MDM or IAM or any other security tool. And there's a giant gap between the security tools that we have and the way that we actually work. 1Password calls it the access trust gap. And now Kolide has joined forces with 1Password. So Kolide brings their user-first device trust solution, which notifies users as it detects something on their device, and it teaches them how to solve it without needing help from IT. And 1Password brings their extended access management to secure every sign-in for every app on every device. Now, this is a fantastic combination because Kolide is designed for companies with Okta. So if you're using Okta and you're looking for a device trust solution, then look no further than Kolide. Plus, now that they've joined up with 1Password and their extended access management, it's just going to get better. Now, Kolide plus 1Password, they care about your user experience and the privacy too, which means it can go places other tools can't, like personal and contractor devices. It ensures that every device is known and healthy and every login is protected. So stop trying to ban BYOD or shadow IT and start protecting them with Kolide and 1Password extended access management. Support the show and go to destinationlinux.net/KOLIDE. That's destinationlinux.net/Kolide. Go there and get more details on these great security solutions. That's destinationlinux.net/Kolide. Emojis. Those friendly and fun little icons you can attach to your messages. Or deadly viruses spreading demons that are trying to destroy your computer.
It's the latter, for sure.
Is it? Well, it turns out that might be the case. And we'll let you know at 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
Well,
right
okay.
after these messages.
Exactly. I was about to do a random thing about head on, applied directly to the forehead. But there is a new Linux malware that has been getting our attention, and it's interesting because it is using emojis of all things to control someone's computer. Yeah. So it's clever and also horrible. But this malware is dubbed Discomoji. Anyway,
not disco, disc go.
Right.
Disco emoji.
I feel like I said it right, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
So disguises commands it wants to execute on your computer by using emojis instead, which is kind of clever. I'll give them that. And the way they deploy it is also pretty interesting too. So a cybersecurity firm, Velocity, discovered this malware this year and believed it's a cyber espionage campaign undertaken by a suspected Pakistan-based threat actor that Velocity currently tracks under the alias of UTA0137.
They need a better hacker alias, like Crash and Burn or something along those lines. UTA0137.
Okay, first of all, the name was Crash Override and Acid Burn, and together they were Crash and Burn. How dare you reference the movie
that right
and
off the
be
top
wrong?
Of your head? Man, that's impressive.
For a second, I thought you're making a reference to the hacker movie. And then I thought, wait, that's not their names. So anyway.
Good fix.
Yeah. Its focus for now is apparently targeting governments government organizations in India. But this malware is pretty interesting because it does certain things that it could, execute commands. It could take screenshots. It could steal files. And it does it all through emojis.
Yeah.
So that's,
they have a list of the emojis that it uses as well. They have, it looks like a fox emoji that gathers all Mozilla Firefox profiles on the victim's device into a zip archive.
Oh, that makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, they have the skeleton that terminates the malware process on the victim's device, a clock that informs the attacker that the command is being processed, thumbs up, thumbs down, finger gun, I think, whatever that is. And there's the camera for capturing a screenshot and a person running to execute a command on the victim's device. So what's interesting is a typical antivirus scanner here, is looking for text-based threats. And it's probably, I don't know of any antivirus that they will now, though, looks for emoji-based threats, right? To tell the program to execute certain things. So it's really interesting. It does target a Linux distro called Boss specifically, which is India's government's version of Linux that they use. But I'm sure Boss is based on something else so it could probably be executed in other places. But I've mentioned this on the show before. All of these viruses, once they're used and they get out there, now can be used everywhere. So a lot of times these viruses are written by very advanced viruses by these government organizations. But once they use it and it's exposed and it's out there in the open, now it's free game for anybody to grab it and utilize it. They get their hands on that. And so this stuff becomes, while it's targeted today, could be something that somebody uses tomorrow on a whole plethora of different types of attacks going on. Yeah. So I found this very interesting and clever. And man, the people who make this stuff, if they just spent their time being good citizens, imagine what they come up with. But it's pretty clever.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. So I understand your point there. But it also, to me, is it's interesting because it's attacking a specific distribution for a government. And part of me has always wondered why governments would make their own distro rather than just using one that already exists. Because what value do you get in making your own when you can just customize whatever you want and then deploy those? There's really no reason to do it, but a lot of them do it. And now because of this, I'm kind of thankful that they do that because this will probably be compatible with other distributions, or it could be modified to do so, or that sort of stuff. But it does kind of give you a little bit of semblance of at least it's not my distro. But it's still kind of interesting because of mainly it's a new form of malware. So that itself is interesting because people are going to have to adjust their scanning tools and removal tools to address it. And that's, an interesting thing in the theoretical sense of like, where is the malware actions going from here? But also, I think the question on everyone's mind, the most important question, what does the poop emoji do, Ryan?
Yeah.
They didn't have it there. That must be the ultimate destruction of the computer or something. I don't
can't believe they wouldn't list that as one of the options.
Why would you not use that emoji of all the
exactly.
emojis? Yeah.
What else would you use?
Well, when I was first reading this story in our Destination Linux Discord channel, I actually posted the joy emoji, heart emoji, and poop emoji.
So Jill was sending viruses at me and Michael, basically. That's what happened.
Apparently. She was disguising her attacks with emojis.
So it's important to note that this particular virus, you have to open a compromise.sh file and execute it. So it's not like they could just go and send you a emoji and all of a sudden you're infected. They would have to use some type of phishing scam to get you to install this thing. And then it's using some modified version of a public project Discord-C2, which uses the messaging service Discord for command and control, and using that to set up the emoji attacks on your system.
It's kind of interesting because this is a good point about like you have to be phished in order to install this file. Well, download and make this file have permissions to run. Because if you download a .sh file, it's not going to have permissions by default like baked in to be able to run. You have to go and give it execution rights and stuff like that. So even that is not enough. But there is something that I thought was really interesting. We got a forum thread about one of the latest episodes where we talked about the security aspects of like where you need a virus on or antivirus on Linux. And we talked about that. We'll have that linked in the show notes. But they had one point that was really good in the sense that you could have a command terminal, like a terminal command that says curl and then a link to an sh file and then pipe bash. And effectively, just if someone ran that, it would download the file, it would give it executable rights, and then they would execute it. And some people use that in their GitHub scripts to, install something that is not malicious. But if people get used to doing that, then they might actually do something like this, where they pull in this compromise thing. And I think that's a good point because, no matter, like, no system is perfectly secure in terms of not invincible to malware. That's not a possibility. So it does require some level of training the people who are using the system, whether that's Linux, Mac, or Windows. And this is a good point because even this could be done just by copying, pasting into a terminal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so scary. Well, I was realizing I should have pasted in our Discord chat the symbol with the camera symbol, which is a screenshot, and the fire symbol. The fire emoji is one of the worst because that allows them to download your tar, your zips, your PDFs, your RAR files, and ODT files.
So, Jill, are you admitting that you were trying to hack me and Michael?
Did you try to deploy this malware on our system?
I mean, she said she's doing it to test it on for the show, for purposes of the show. But yeah. I feel like that's taking the show too far, Jill.
I did find the GitHub account for this.
That is hilarious.
Of course you did, Jill.
I just had this random thought. Microsoft, when they came around and wanted to let everyone know they liked Linux, they didn't just say, hey, Microsoft loves Linux. They Microsoft emojied Linux. What if
they heart emojied it?
That heart emoji was actually a virus. And the whole time, they basically have been executing commands every time Microsoft hearts Linux.
Oh, we've been living in the Matrix, Ryan.
I'm telling you.
But they're putting that on like photos that you just look in a browser.
Yeah,
very advanced. Now, just as long as they see the emoji.
But there actually is a reason why they did it that way, why they put Microsoft hearts Linux. It's because that way when someone says, wait, Microsoft loves Linux, you'd be like, no. Heart Linux. It's different.
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't love it enough to say the word, just enough to hit an emoji.
Right, exactly.
But they did usually represent Linux with the Tux Penguin, so that
Yeah.
That's
that
true,
has
too.
another philosophical
So
meaning
maybe they
to
just
it.
heart Tux. That's it.
Yeah.
Just like
That's-
Tux.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But also, I will say that in some ways, you could argue that Microsoft does love Linux because they created that stupid recall system, that it's helping a lot of people
Yes.
see that Linux is a better option.
You heard that got delayed, right? They pulled back on
Yeah,
their plans
they
to
pulled
launch
back on their
Well,
on their
they're just
Snapdragon.
doing the typical Microsoft thing. It's, hey, we announce something, everyone hates it, we pull back, and then sprinkle it in later down the road so you don't pay attention.
it. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. No, but this is interesting, and I think it's important we cover stuff like this because
Yeah.
just because you're on Linux doesn't mean you can go around executing whatever you want, like that one friend Michael has. You have to, use some precaution and make sure you know that where the stuff you're getting is coming from because Linux can be vulnerable as well.
There's only so many friends you can have. There's actually like a mathematical study that relates to that.
Yeah.
But you can have so many emojis.
Yeah,
So many
this
emojis.
is true.
So many.
This is true. And you know what was interesting is when I was reading about this, I'm actually just going to assume that this vulnerability, disco emoji, works whether you use the web app or the Linux Discord Electron app. Maybe they have it so it only works in one or the other. It should
looks
work
like
in
they're
both.
using some modified version
But,
of
yeah,
Discord API.
yeah, that's what it's.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, they could just
sounded
do
like
it through
to
like
me.
the command line on like a terminal because there's a bunch of different like
Yeah,
alternative versions of Discord. You still use the Discord servers, but you're
Mhm.
using a different client. So maybe they're doing it that's like a specific thing like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's more important to tell Ryan that I have at least 2 friends and they're on this show. So
Oh.
Oh,
don't know.
yes, you do,
I don't know
Michael.
if Wendy and Nate agree because they're
okay, I have at least 3 friends because 2 of them are Nate and Wendy that are in the room with.
I do want to make this point that you could utilize, they used a modified version of public project Discord C2, but for this to work, you could utilize any program that has emojis in it, honestly, to execute this, that you have API access into.
Yeah.
So there's nothing specific about Discord here. Although
Discord
I wonder,
is
does
just
the
a
Indian
clever
government
way of
use
doing it.
Discord to like do their government stuff? That would be weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because Discord
Yes.
started as being a gaming only thing. And people and they even had a rule that you are not allowed to use it for business or commercial purposes and that sort of stuff. And then eventually people just did it so much and did not care about that rule that Discord gave up and said, okay, whatever. Just use it for whatever.
It's probably out of all of the ones I've used, all the proprietary teams, all of that, Discord, I think, is the best laid out one out there.
It is.
I,
isn't
sure.
it?
I think the
Right.
closest not proprietary. I mean, so is Discord is proprietary, but the closest most common one is Slack. Like Slack is
I hate
quite
Slack.
Slack is actually quite good and somehow at the same time terrible. I don't know how they do that.
It's
but it's
good
interesting.
until you get like in a big organization, you have thousands of people, and then you start accruing hundreds and hundreds of combinations of different people and
that
discussions with
is
them.
irritating.
It
yes.
is really bad. Really
It's also
bad.
trying to find like who's in the right one, and then they don't even bother. They just make a new one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a good point. Okay, you're right. Slack is terrible. So, but
you know what's not terrible, Michael?
But hold on, before we move on, I actually wanted to tell you a story. It's a completely irrelevant, unrelated
that's perfect
story
for this show.
but it, but it is relevant to emojis because there was this movie called the Emoji Movie that was made.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It's a cartoon.
Yeah, and I always considered this movie to be stupid and not worth the time, obviously. But I went to the theaters with my girlfriend and we went to see this movie called If. And it was and it was supposed to be like this really fun, clever, imaginary friend, aka If movie. It was sad and depressing and boring. And then, you know what? I was like, Emoji Movie could not be any worse than that. And turns out it's actually kind of fun. It's a very silly, stupid movie, but it's kind of fun. So if you're down on the idea of emojis now because of this news, you can go watch the Emoji Movie and be down for another reason.
There you go.
Ah.
Interesting. So what you're saying is you watched If, you needed eye bleach. So instead of watching Lord of the Rings, which you still haven't seen, you're like, I'm going to go watch the Emoji Movie. That's such a weird behavior.
We wanted. Okay, so If was supposed to be silly fun stuff,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. Emoji Movie was silly fun stuff. It delivered on the silly funness. And Lord
I
of the
see
Rings,
you're looking.
Lord of the Rings is not silly funness, but also it's 3 movies, right? So that's a lot of commitment and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just, that's why.
You have issues with commitment. That's interesting. I wonder if your girlfriend has that. All right.
Okay.
So this one's going to make you happy, Michael. This one's going to make you really happy. So
We'll
in our
see.
news this week, KDE Plasma 6.1 released. All right. But Jill, we have to put some rules in place because Michael will never shut up. So I'm going to officially start a timer here on my phone. And Michael, when I get this timer started, you are going to have 47 seconds. Why 47 seconds? That's a good question. I don't even know. But you're going to have 47 seconds.
I like it.
To give us all the information you can about KDE 6.1 and why people, and we'll do in a later episode, we'll do more of a deep dive. But for now, Michael, tell us about your favorite KDE and what they've done with 6.1 and go.
So 6.1 is really cool. I have not given it a chance yet because it's not out for most distributions, but I have downloaded KDE Neon so I can play with it. First of all, KDE Neon is not meant for everybody, so just keep that in mind. But what's really cool about it is that 6.0 was a huge undertaking and that they were kind of reworking everything to be Qt 6 frameworks rather than the Qt 5. So there was a lot to do. And then 6.1 is kind of polishing everything up. So the overall, it's going to be a lot better experience. Like the edit mode for the panel is going to be much better and a lot of stuff like that. But they also added a lot of cool things. For example, they added remote desktop support. So if you want to do remote desktop, you don't have to install some third-party tool. You can do it directly inside of KDE Plasma with the KRDC tool, which is remote desktop client. And
so that's all you need to know.
That's not 47 seconds.
That was 47 seconds. 47 seconds.
That was not 47 seconds.
Should we give them 47 more, Jill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
47 more seconds. And you were talking about remote desktop. Go.
Well, maybe I don't want to talk about Plasma anymore. I'm kidding. Of course I do. So there are there are so many cool things in it, but I think that the overall thing to take away is that they are putting in so much extra polish to this release that I am excited for just to try the different improvements that they're doing, because there's the biggest deal is clearly the NVIDIA users getting explicit sync. This is going to be so much better for the NVIDIA users. I don't have NVIDIA, but it kind of makes me jealous that I don't now, because the CUDA stuff is cool and all that. But also they've done triple buffering, which means that the overall experience is going to be smoother, better animations, just an overall better rendering and that sort of stuff. So 6.1 is going to be probably what people expected from 6.0, but because of all the stuff that was being changed, 6.0 couldn't really do that. So I think that people should be more excited for 6.1 than they were for 6.0.
Well, the details that they put in here, like sync your keyboard, colored LEDs,
favorite.
is such a cool. I know this is not like a productivity thing or interest, but well, maybe a productivity thing, because you got to have everything. You got to have your environment.
If you don't have RGBs, you lose like 5% of a performance.
Absolutely. So if you have certain colors on your keyboard, you can match that aesthetic through the LEDs on your desktop, or colors in your desktop. And I know Wendy loves RGB. Like, she is such a huge fan of RGB.
Loves it. It's kind of
loves it. If it doesn't have RGB, she doesn't want it. That's Wendy's go-to.
Yeah.
For those who know Wendy, know that's 100% fact, and I never make stuff up. But I like these little attention to detail pieces like this, because you're starting to get into a mode where KDE has done so much with customization and what you can do with its desktop, that now it's at the point of just enhancing the usability and overall feel and aesthetics of KDE. And so now you start really taking an OS that's functional and now making it fun, and that is really cool. I like
Yeah.
that.
And also there was this feature that I noticed I was using Mac. I noticed that they have something that I was just playing around with my mouse. I was just moving it around really fast, and all of a sudden it like zoomed up and popped in my face. And it was like a way to identify that it's there. And something similar is being added to 6.1 for Plasma by default. So if someone loses their mouse, they can just shake their mouse and it will, bring attention to itself, so you can find it easier. And this is
Nice.
very good, especially for people who have a large real estate of monitors. Like if you have I have 3 monitors right now, and the amount of times I've lost my mouse on this version of KDE Plasma is very high. And especially with like the high DPI, and depending on the mouse icon set, you might not have ability to have like a bigger one. So this is a really good approach to making it easier to just find it. And I think that's a benefit to everybody, because first of all, I did it.
But you're out of time, Michael.
I mean, yeah, I was out of time like 4 minutes ago. You started keep going, and then you reminded me of that. So I was like, I got to say this now too.
It's Ryan's fault. No, I'm kidding.
It is Ryan's fault.
But
That's true.
actually, speaking of customization mode, they have they even improved that a lot more in the enter edit mode, and they made the menu cleaner, and they did a little animation that zooms out the image, and it's really nice. It looks really pretty.
Yeah.
The edit mode previously was like a little clunky on 6.0.
Yeah, it was very clunky.
But 6.1, based on showing like the video demos of talking about it, it looks pretty solid. So I'm excited.
If you have NVIDIA, the fact that it eliminates flickering and that triple buffering for the screen rendering in Wayland, like if you have NVIDIA, you pretty much need to be on KDE at this point based on those features alone. Because I have a video that teaches you how to stop flickering back on X, because that was an issue on X too that would happen. And that was one of my most popular videos with the fix with that.
Yeah.
You could still get an insane amount of views.
Screen tearing has been a problem for 25 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that video is at least 3 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they've solved this, big deal.
It's funny because all the other DEs that are probably going to implement, like we know that GNOME is going to have explicit sync in the next version, and also the same true with most of the other DEs, but not literally all of them, but most of them will. So the NVIDIA support is just going to get so much better, because it used to be the case of like if you wanted to use Wayland and you had NVIDIA, the answer is don't do that. Now it's actually a possibility, and for most people, you don't actually have to customize that much. You can just install the system. That's one of the things about people talk about how AMD and Intel is such a better experience in Linux because you don't have to do anything. That's kind of true now because of the new way that the NVIDIA drivers, if you have 555 and newer, and you have a certain level of hardware, of your NVIDIA graphic drivers or graphic machine, like the GPU itself, it has to be at least like 900 series or newer. And you get basically a nice out-of-the-box experience. You still need to do the proprietary stuff if you want gaming and that sort of stuff. But the experience that it used to be, where it didn't matter if it was Wayland, it would just break. Now that is a thing of the past, or at least it will be going forward with the next releases of various distros and DEs and all that sort of stuff.
That's awesome. And, I really want to help NVIDIA out, because they really are hurting for money right now. They're only worth $3 trillion.
I know, it's very sad.
They really need some GPU sales.
Only $3 trillion? What's wrong with you, NVIDIA?
I know. They need to really pick it up.
So we have some more news to talk about, and now it is mobile news, because everybody loves talking about smartphones these days.
Sure do.
It is. See, this is the thing that people don't know, that smartphones have been around for a long time. And in the beginning, everybody was talking about them because they were super interesting. And are you pulling out your phone to show that you have a Pixel, or are you?
Oh, what? No. Keep going, Michael. Just keep going.
Oh, okay, sure. And so anyway, one of the few Android devices that doesn't come stock full of all the annoying bloatware of the forced apps like Facebook or Candy Crush or whatever. And that means like not that they come by default, but that you can't remove them, which is insane. And also, like Candy Crush games you never asked for.
Yeah.
It also happens to be one of the devices that is most compatible with other versions of Android. And of course, we're talking about the Pixel devices from Google.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So Google Pixel's devices are actually kind of interesting. They're pretty high end. They have some alternative options that are not super expensive. And apparently Ryan has a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in my hand here, Michael, is the Pixel 7.
okay.
And over here is the Pixel 8 Pro. So I
I have a
figured
Pixel
since
6a.
we're talking about the
Yeah.
Pixel devices, I might as well just kind of bring them on the show here.
I have a Nexus 5 and a Nexus 7.
This is my Pixel 6a, which I forgot that I had.
There you go. So, I mean, the reason I have this Pixel 7 is because Graphene OS, when I was doing testing with that, it was so easy to get installed on the Pixel devices. It's really interesting because of all the companies, Google has the least amount of bloatware and crap that they put on their phones. And then they also are one of the easiest phones for you to, if you look at any of these alternative Android OSs, to put one of the alternatives on, which makes it a really good phone to get your hands on. But there's some really interesting things that Google's doing to try to, of course, compete in the AI world, because we wouldn't have an episode on tech or anything or a news story if we didn't cover something.
You thought
AI
you were going to
related.
get away with AI?
Yeah. Without AI.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Here we go.
So, Gemini, Google's AI assistant, is finally coming to their full line of Pixel 8 devices. So that's the Pixel 8, the Pixel 8a, and the Pixel 8 Pro. And the A is the latest one. It's a mid-level device, but it has the artificial intelligence chip inside of it.
Wait, the A is the mid level? I was assuming that was
It's like a $500 phone. I mean, it's not it's mid-level compared to the specs, hardware specs.
Oh, okay. So mid-level in terms of like other phones in the market.
Yeah. The $1,600 Pixel Fold would be like, flagship status,
Gotcha.
for instance. Yeah.
Way too much money for a phone. Okay.
Way too much money for that. So it comes with all those AI things. And there's some interesting ones in here that I want to talk about that I've been playing with because I have the phone. These just kind of came out to all of the devices here within the last few weeks. It's Summarize in Recorder, which can now detect and export transcripts of recordings into text files. So, I know a lot of people who use this. I don't use this a lot, but a lot of people actually record their notes for the day of what they want to get done or what happened for class and stuff using the recorder function. And now you can basically have those transcribed into a text file and send that out, which is really nice. That's pretty
actually very cool. I used to do, like a long time ago, I used to do the whole recording it like while I'm driving, like, oh, here's some things I wanted to, write down later. And then I would never go back and write it down. So I stopped doing the recordings because I never listened to them again because I didn't care enough to actually go write them down myself. But this sounds pretty cool.
That is a pretty cool feature. And then they also have support for DisplayPort now on all the 3 Pixel 8s. So this allows users to connect their phone to a second display via USB-C cable. And that's cool. There are rumors that they are adding a Samsung DeX-like functionality so that your phone can now become a full desktop machine. And we have a tip that might make that possible, like immediately. That's coming later in the show.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite features, though, that they talked about, and this is using AI, unlike Recall, this is actually using AI for some useful things, is the reverse phone lookup. When you get one of those random calls from a number you don't recognize, you can have Google right there reverse lookup on it and see who might be calling you. Now, just like when you do those reverse lookups on your own, maybe it can't find it. Some of those numbers are unlisted or whatever. But if there is information, it's going to bring it back to who that person might be. So you can actually see, that was the doctor or somebody else.
Yeah, that's really good because it would be able to like tell you like if it's a business or whatever, or if it can't find it, it's either spam or it's the person or someone you might know, or a different number, that sort of thing. So it gives you like an idea. But it makes me think like, why would you need AI to do this? Couldn't you just do a search on Google for this kind of thing and get the information? But also because of that thought, why did it take over 15 years for this to become a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we've all done it. I mean, how many times?
I've manually done it many times. Exactly.
Yeah, same here. So
15 years.
It's a dang good point, Michael. Like, you wonder what's going on behind the scenes that these companies allow this spam stuff to go on forever and don't seem to have any ability to fix it.
Especially since it's gotten so freaking bad. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it gets
so
worse.
bad you're not even using your voice on your phone anymore.
So the funny part about it is that the whole robocall thing is that it used to be like illegal, like federally illegal to do robocalling. And then for some reason, the US government, thanks buddies, decided to not continue that rule and let it be completely legal to robocall. And shockingly, thousands and thousands times more it happened. So
That's why
shocker.
it's gotten worse. Yeah. They also improved their Find Your Device to be more on par with Apple's, meaning you can find your device even when it's turned off because Google's getting your data anyway, so why not?
Okay, and then, first of all, that's good because of the fact that it's like up to 23 hours after you turn it off. So if the battery dies, it technically doesn't die. There's like a little bit left in for this purpose. Mm-hmm. I think that's actually good.
Yeah, I do too.
Obviously, the other part of Google taking on your data, that's not great. But at least there's some things that they do.
You just get the DuckDuckGo app and block all of that data going anywhere.
Yeah, there you go.
The Pixel Watch also has some enhancements. And if you're like, what's the Pixel Watch look like? Ryan's got you covered here. If you're watching the video version, here is a Pixel Watch in comparison to a Garmin Venue 3. Having played with the Pixel Watch 2, by
those
the way,
who don't know, Ryan is a hardware addict.
Yeah, a little bit. For those who want to know, like, do I get the Pixel Watch if I get the Pixel phone? No, it's terrible. It's actually literally the worst watch of all watches. Now, you may be asking, Ryan, you should know that. Everyone's pretty much said that. But I don't believe everyone. I need to experience it for myself. In this case, they were right. The fitness aspects of it are absolutely horrible. The fact that it has two different apps required for it. You've got what is that stupid company they bought that has Fitbit, the subscription service on top.
Okay, so first of all, the original Fitbit didn't have all that stuff.
Yeah, they were cool.
It was actually a good device. It had good settings. It gave you a lot of good data. So the fact that Google bought Fitbit and then destroyed its value is very interesting because you would imagine you buy a company because you want to absorb the good qualities, not take it and then destroy it for what purpose?
Yeah. Like Fitbit has the only reason I could see that you would want the subscription is it does have videos where it tells you how to do exercises. There's also YouTube, which is free, that also has videos that show
Google
you how
also
to do exercises. So, like, I don't get this device at all. The screen is ultra small. You cannot do sets on it. So on my Garmin watch, I can only do sets, but I can enter in the weight and the reps for each set. And it also can monitor and tell me, hey, I think you're doing a set and here's how many I think you did. Whereas this does nothing. You just literally say, I'm working out, and you get a timer in your heart rate, and that's about it. It is the most worthless watch I have ever come across. But it's getting enhanced because now it's going to have fall protection or car crash detection and bicycle fall detection, which out of all of the features that this watch needs are the bottom of my list there.
Well, also the fact that they said this,
there you go.
Like, hey, if you get into an accident, the watch can now help you like do the thing that your phone could already do. Like,
right.
What?
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Google is weird. So I want to talk real quick about the Pixel 8 Pro because I just got this phone this week. I've been using the Pixel Fold and the $1,600 device, but I did not pay that for it. I bought it used, which, by the way, they go for about $600 if that tells you about their popularity right now used. So the Pixel 8 Pro and its AI enhancements are fascinatingly bad.
That pause right there.
The first experience I had was with the KDE article. In fact, I went to the web page because it has a new feature called Summarize, in which if you're on a web page, you can say, hey, Google, and then summarize this. And it will summarize the web page. At least in the advertisement, that's what it does. But in fact, when I said, hey, Google, summarize this, what it did instead was it popped up a screen and said, do you want to use Gemini instead? I'm I'm like, okay, well, this is interrupting what I want to do because
Like,
I
isn't
guess it
it big you in the first place?
defaults to Google Assistant, weirdly enough. So
Oh.
I'm like, yeah, let's switch to Gemini. Oh, it's talking to me now. Shut up, Google. And then what happens is, so I'm like, okay, yeah, I think this is a Gemini feature, right? Obviously. So I tell it, hey, switch over to Gemini. So I go through that prompt, and then it gives me all these terms and privacy. So I'm clicking all this stuff. Meanwhile, I'm still waiting to get a summary of this stuff. It's not happened. And then I get Gemini there and I say, hey, summarize this. And it switches to Gemini off of the web page and says, Gemini cannot be used for summarizing web pages.
The thing
Oh.
they
Then I
literally
go back-
promote.
Wait, I go back to my search. This is how messed up Google is. Like nobody talks to each other in that company, I'm convinced. Like people go create something and the other people don't talk to each other. So I look up, hey, you guys advertise the summary feature. Where is it? It's like, oh, that's only available in Google Assistant. So I have to go back into settings, switch back to Google Assistant, then tell it to summarize this, in which it did give me finally a pretty decent
But
voice
it
summary.
already had Google Assistant. Why didn't they do it the first time?
It wants you to go to Gemini because it wants you to go to Gemini because I guess they want to make Gemini popular, but the feature I wanted is only available in Google Assistant. Make
So
it make sense.
So they force you to switch to Gemini,
Uh-huh.
and then you find out you have to switch back to the thing you already used, so that they really just want you to agree to all their Gemini terms.
I guess
That's
I don't
what it
know.
sounds
Maybe
like.
that's what it is. But you could tell Google is so disoriented in their software. They have no idea like what the other people who are writing are doing, and
Mhm.
nothing is just like this Pixel Watch. Nothing is cohesive, and everything is kind of.
I saw
just
something
a
about
mess.
like they did this whole change with there's like you can search the phone now, and they basically just did things that other launchers could already do for years. But there was also a thing where they said if you go into the settings and you're looking for a particular thing, what they did is change where it is. So you go into this settings part and then you go to this part, and now it's here, and that's it. They changed it for no reason. And then another one, they changed the label of it, but it's literally the exact same thing. It's like the password thing. They rephrased it for some reason, and it doesn't like whatever. It's just like, we get what you're trying to do, but you don't execute very well.
No, not even. Let me explain. I just want to take this one step further in case someone from Google is listening to this and you can send it to your executives, because I know you can't say this, but we can. It's so bad that you literally have to say, summarize this. If you say, summarize this web page, it still errors out even in Google Assistant and says, I can't summarize web pages. But if you say, summarize this while you're on the page and don't say web page, then it will summarize it. This is the AI that's replacing all of our jobs. This is the thing that Google wants to sell to companies as this incredible, like, look at what you can do. And it only works 10% of the time. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope right now, but maybe Google will get it together. It's only a week old. That they've added some of these enhancements, but if you're advertising it, are you even using it, Google? Like, do you guys even use this crap that you say?
That's a good question. I wonder how many people use, first of all, a different thing than a Google Pixel that work for Google, and how many people who work for Google use an iPhone. That would be really interesting statistics. Like I just
not the Siri's
super
much
curious.
better, but
no, Siri's terrible. Like, so I just quick side note. I was sending my girlfriend like a good morning message, and I said, I activated Siri, and I said, stop it. And I said, hey, good morning, blah, blah, blah. And then it started, and then it said, okay, sending to Ryan. Wait, what?
Oh, I would have loved a good morning message.
Not that said babe on it.
Well, that'd have been sweet.
That'd been very confusing. And then I was like, no, stop, Siri. And then I said, okay, try again. Hey, I said the whole, please don't activate. I said, hey, Siri, send the message. You did activate. Go away. And it said, and it was like, please send a message to, and then in the message it was going to send, it said, "Hey Siri, send a message." Like, no, that's not how this should work.
Oh my
How could it be around for years and years and it
Be that
not
bad.
understand to never send its own wake up call in a message? Like,
yeah,
uh,
it's
Oh
special,
boy.
super
Well,
special.
I was actually, really looking forward to the summarize and recorder feature. In fact, I'm thinking of getting a Pixel because of it.
Yeah.
I think that's just awesome.
sorry that we
Um,
burst your bubble there. Jill.
Yeah, but if stuff's not working, but that's kind of true of Google. They release things, and it's
The first
developing.
version is,
Yeah, the first version is always a little funky, and then it gets better over time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
There's some neat things like the automatically translate in other languages and images, and I can tell you their magic eraser is first class. Like if you want to remove things,
Yeah, that's
from
impressive.
images,
yeah,
incredible
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
There are some great use cases of AI, and I would say at least with Google, the applications that they chose to implement AI in make sense, and it would be useful if it worked.
That's awesome.
But they've got some bugs, Jill. They've got
Yeah.
some bugs.
They sure do. And speaking of bugs, we can't live with them and we can't live without them.
That's right.
We all have, a particular bug that just creeps us out. And it could be a Google one as well. But our game this week will help you take your arachnophobia or your chiliopodophobia called bug.
I'm not
That's
afraid of
capital
chili.
BUG.
Philopodophobia.
I'm not even sure if I pronounced that
It's
correctly.
chilopodophobia because it's a pod, right? It's
Oh,
podophobia.
okay.
I like the chili phobia. Like imagine having a phobia of chili.
What is the What is that?
Yeah, well, you're afraid of. You're afraid of. Well, I have it. I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk
So-
about it in a second.
Wait, we
Jill,
might
go
as
ahead.
well
So,
talk about it
now I
now
know.
because we might as well just talk about it now.
I don't want to talk about it. I really don't want to even mention it. I actually just want to move on to our tip and trick because.
Okay, so let's move on to Jill continuing to talk about this game.
Okay. But before we get into the game some more, I want to find out what bug phobias Michael and Ryan have.
I don't want to talk
creeps you
about
out
my
the
bug
most?
phobia.
So-
I like how Ryan is like, let's just get back to the game, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay,
Here we go.
let's
We're
do
staying
that,
on that topic.
and then
All right,
not do that
listen.
at all.
I have given a lot emotionally to this community about me. Like I have really opened myself up, and at least
You're an
say,
open book, Ryan.
I'm an open book. When I talked about Chucky, I had a lot of support from the community, and I'm hoping I could get that same support here for my chili phobia. My chili phobia, which is a phobia of chilopodophobia. Chilopodophobia. That's a tongue twister. Is centipedes and millipedes. Anything with that many legs is not natural. They're freaks of nature. How do they control all those legs? First of all, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They're obviously from another planet. Why do they need that many legs? Right? Why wouldn't 4 be just fine for them? Why do they have to have like 100? They're greedy, little slimy, disgusting, revolting pests that need to be eradicated from this planet. That's how I feel about millipedes and centipedes and all these people, like science teachers and stuff. We had one bring them into class and be like, everyone want to hold it. And I'm like, no. I remember telling him no, and he was like, no, you need to get over it. I was like, literally, no, stop. I don't want to get over it. Get the stupid thing away from me. They're disgusting, but I don't really care about other bugs. Like
So,
spiders
Ryan,
don't
did
bother
you
me.
know that centipedes can actually capture flies and cockroaches, and they help
they're really
deal with those kinds of things? And also, they're
They're
typically
worse than what they're replacing.
they're not harmful to humans or anything.
Yeah, harming you.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some that are very.
There
harmful
are
to
some
humans.
that are,
Yes.
poison.
There's some that are venomous, but they're not actually potent enough to hurt a human.
There's no reason to have that many legs. It's wrong. It's just wrong.
Millipedes also replenish soil, Ryan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can go do that somewhere else away from me because if I see one, it's dead on sight. Like other bugs, I will rescue and put outside. Like I don't believe in just like going around smashing everything in your house. I do rescue bugs and put them outside.
I do
Moths
too.
and things get inside.
Yeah.
But a centipede, I'll straight up shoot a shotgun at it if I have to. Like I don't want anything to do with them. And my kids love this, by the way. They got a bunch of rubber centipedes and like put them in my bed before and everything because it's like a known thing that I hate that's my Achilles heel.
So Ryan told me this before many months ago. And when I found out we were going to talk about a game called Bug, I specifically knew he was going to mention this. So I went and looked up what are the benefits for centipedes and millipedes that I could tell you.
How do you know this crap off the top of your head, you jerk?
I have a note right on the side.
Nice, Michael.
Oh my goodness.
So,
all right,
Michael, what bug creeps you out the most?
So I looked up what the term bug means, and technically it means insects, which I didn't know that. But so I would say spiders, even though they don't classify in that term, I guess. But since I'm from the south of the USA, this is where black widows and brown recluses thrive. Yeah. And I've seen many of those. I'm not a big fan of those, especially when I've seen what they could do to people when they get bit by one. And it happens very quickly. You see like, oh, that's a spider bite. And then an hour later, like, oh, that's a bad spider bite. Let's go to the hospital. So those kinds of things, those freak me out a little bit. But,
they're
not
very
all
beneficial
spiders.
to society, Michael. Their diet consists of insects, so they help keep the insect population
100%
down.
just looked it up.
These pests, they can get rid of pests that cause diseases like fleas.
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with all spiders. It's the ones that can kill me in like a couple hours.
That's interesting. Well, the venom from a black widow spider may cause muscle aches, nausea, and paralysis, and potentially death, but it's being used in innovative ways in medicine. So without it, we wouldn't have some of the new medicine it's using to help people. So there you go, Michael.
Actually, millipedes and centipedes are also used in medicine too, Ryan.
I don't even like the word. Honestly, it grossed me out when you said the word. My teeth hurt, like in my back.
Just the word centipede.
Just the word of it. Just thinking about their little stupid legs. Like, why do you need that many legs?
Also, spiders are selfish with their greedy 8 legs,
Yeah, for some reason, 8's still acceptable to me. Like, it doesn't bother me. But over that...
Because of octopus, right? Because they have 8 tentacles.
Like, why? Why do you need more than that? Like, spider was fine. Spider's like, I'm going to be greedy, but reasonable. Millipede and centipede, not reasonable. You don't need that many. There's no reason for it. Stupid. Disgusting.
So, Jill...
Yeah.
What is your phobia of bugs or whatever?
Yes. So to be honest, most bugs don't usually creep me out. My dad even had a pet tarantula.
Oh, okay. Your dad had a pet tarantula.
My dad even had, a pet tarantula that I used that I used to play with as a kid. And
tarantulas are actually pretty cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. And of course, they take the poisonous sacs out of them. So they just feel like heavy mammals because they're kind of furry that are crawling up your arm.
It's definitely freaky the first time you have one on you.
Yeah.
But knowing that they won't actually hurt you, and even without their venom taken out, that they don't typically
usually
attack humans anyway.
Yeah,
like they attack smaller things.
Yeah. But I do actually have one bug that I have, great respect for and stay away from because they can be lethal, the scorpion. And we had lots of them around our surf cabin in Baja, Mexico. So I learned, great respect of scorpions, and we had to make sure to check our shoes before we put them on in the morning, that kind of thing.
Scorpions look cool, but they are annoying. The fact that they hide in little dark spaces and stab you with their amazing looking tail.
Yeah.
But in Florida, we had that problem. They'd get in your shoes and then they would hit you with their stinger, and it was like a hornet, like stinging you. It hurt.
Yeah,
I agree. Scorpion, I prefer Sub-Zero.
Yeah, exactly. Sub-Zero is way cooler.
Well, we used to have one of the ones in Mexico was one of the biggest of the species, and it would kill people. People were known to die from these scorpion bites.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty sketchy.
Yeah, so we had to be careful.
Get over here.
So, Ryan, did you know that scorpions are also populated in Texas?
Oh, yeah. I also know tarantulas are here in Texas, and they're just a common spider you find in your yard. So when we moved here, my wife was so delighted because her phobia is of spiders to know that they're not just in pet stores in Texas. They're just in your yard.
They're just in your yard walking around.
It's really enjoyable.
The wonders of Texas.
Wonders of Texas. Yeah.
Well, back to our wonderful game we're going to talk about, which is Bug.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. So, you actually, with all these bug phobias, we can get our revenge on with the game called Bug, where your goal is to smash bugs and do it safely without getting stung.
I like it. Nice.
So the game describes itself on Steam like this. Bug is an action clicker game where you just smash pesky bugs and do your part. Have you been taken out of action or not allowed to protect super duper Earth? Welcome to the planet Drake, where you can destroy bugs from a remote drone turret for freedom.
I like the remote drone turret.
Yeah.
Freedom. That's great.
So Bug actually has very realistic bugs that explode on click, and they're
Nice.
multi-legged creatures, which Ryan wouldn't like.
No.
And it is a top-down cinematic masterpiece. And it actually is very well done and a lot of
That's
fun.
awesome. I mean, it's
And-
great. It's a great idea for a game, I feel like, especially for kids and stuff.
It
Although,
really
you know,
is.
you don't
It
need
really
to kill all the
is.
bugs. They're actually good for a lot of them are good, except for millipedes and centipedes. A lot of them are good for the world. So
Yeah.
do it in a video game, though. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, the game Bug is actually free to play on Steam, which is always awesome and works great on the Steam Deck and supports our Linux Penguins out of the box. So you can, if you have a stuffed penguin sitting around and there's a bug going after it, you can use this game to smash it.
There you go.
So, okay. This is a free to play game. So, for those who are curious and you want to play this, feel free to check it out. It also made me wonder if it supports the Steam Deck and the Steam Deck has a touchscreen, can you do the tapping actually that'd be kind of fun.
You smash them on the screen
Yeah.
with your finger. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
cool. That'd be good.
So at
Yeah.
first, when I first saw that we were going to talk about this bug thing, my initial reaction is, okay, this is going to be a silly thing. I look at the video and just, nope, not
Really?
a fan. Yeah, while I was researching this thing, it actually made me get itchy, when you see certain things, it just makes you feel creeped out a little bit. I was like,
That's
okay,
great.
I was like, okay, Ryan's a jerk for making us to talk about this game.
Welcome.
But
So Jill, it's horror games. Michael, it's bugs.
It's bugs, yeah.
it's certain. It's okay. I don't know of any other games that are like this, but there are games that have bug related things that are fine.
Yeah.
I don't know why,
Yeah.
but this particular thing, not a
Smashing
fan.
bugs. Yeah.
Not a fan.
Well, this one is cool, Michael, because you do get to explode them. So you get to have a nice explosion while you eradicate them.
So earlier, Ryan, you were talking about rescuing the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I when you said that, I was like, oh, that's exactly what I do. I take them outside and I let them go and everything. And I was realizing, what if the bug wants to be inside? You're really kicking it out. You're evicting it, not rescuing it.
Evicting the bug. Well, it ain't paying rent, number one, so I don't feel bad for that. So it needs to get out of there.
Well, it's so funny, Michael and Ryan. We all kind of, do the same thing because I don't like to harm bugs. And that's the other thing is I actually like bugs. So I don't like to harm them. So what I do when they're in the house, especially if it's one that's big, like a big spider or whatnot, I let it crawl onto a Kleenex and I wrap the Kleenex up and then take it outside.
Yeah, I always do the bowl and the paper method,
Yeah,
But Cubicle Nate, who's in our chat right now, says if there's any kind of insect in my house, it will die. I leave them alone if they're outside, but once they cross the threshold, they've decided their life was not worth keeping. I don't think bugs think on that level, but I like your. I think a lot of people they handle it like you do, and Nate also wanted to add. Aren't scorpions just land lobsters? Are they good in garlic butter sauce? And that's a big question, honestly.
I knew someone who ate a scorpion once.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess you can't eat scorpions. They grill them.
Like you can get, ants and other bugs.
But are they good in garlic butter sauce?
Probably. Really anything's good with butter on it.
That's a fair point.
All right there, Paula Dean. Oh, man. What is happening?
Speaking of it, I love langosta. I used to have it down in Mexico a lot. My dad would catch lobsters, and I even have a picture of him holding a lobster that's taller than he is. The lobster was 6'3" tall.
A 6-foot lobster?
What?
Yeah.
Doesn't that belong in like a Power Rangers episode?
Yeah.
That's a monster. That's not a lobster. That's a monster.
They're huge. They can be really huge.
That's crazy. Oh.
Okay, now I'm terrified of 6-foot lobsters.
Would you rather fight a 6-foot lobster or 12 3-foot ducks? You know, was that old saying?
It's not the saying, but that's the saying now.
Yeah, it's the saying now.
All right. Let's move on to the software spotlight, because this week our software spotlight is a mobile app for Android users called UserLAnd, but it's spelled with capital ALA. And it's the great part of this app is there's no root required, but it also allows you to install packages that you can use that are Linux-based packages to be on your phone. So also you can do like games and stuff with it too, but not like super powerful games. Obviously, it's a phone. So what you can do is effectively run Linux on your phone. Okay, so Android is powered by the Linux kernel, so you're already doing that just automatically. But what I'm saying is that you're able to use Linux tools and Linux apps on your phone. That part is pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And I'm using UserLAnd right now, but on the phone. But what I was thinking about with this is you can, if with the DisplayPort opportunity, I'm going to try this out, run a full desktop and then like Samsung DeX, have UserLAnd running and then connect it up. And then you could have basically a mobile computer with you everywhere you go. Like you could do that at a hotel with your television. You could do that
You know what that means, Ryan?
Monitor.
Convergence.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Canonical
indeed.
was ahead of their time.
Yeah. So even if, Google doesn't do the whole DeX thing like it's predicted, I think with UserLAnd, you kind of get that functionality right here out of the phone.
Yeah. And also, I think there's someone else working on something that's similar. That's called like Lindroid or something.
Yeah, Lindroid.
Yeah. So there's competing things trying to get this to happen. So you can run a full blown desktop. Like UserLAnd, you can run a full blown desktop and run specific apps. Like if you want to use the Firefox, that's the desktop version in your phone, you can. If you want to do graphical tools like Inkscape or whatever, it would be a very terrible experience to use a phone to do that kind of thing. Yes. But if you want to, you totally can. And that's cool.
All right. Well, that's the end of the episode, and a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening Destination Linux, however you do it. We love your faces. And you can come join us on Discord at tuxdigital.com/Discord and talk about this episode. Talk about your bug phobias. Talk about using your favorite Android devices on there or Apple devices, your favorite applications, all the
talk
Linux
about your favorite Android bugs.
Everything you can do right there on our Discord. And if you want to watch the show live, you can become a patron of Destination Linux and watch us live. And there's more antics, believe it or not, than the nonsense you hear on the show. That's after editing. There's more nonsense in between that Wendy edits out. It's amazing.
That's right. We have in between segments. There's stuff that happens before and after the show. There's stuff that happens.
There's nonsense everywhere.
Yeah, tons of nonsense. If you want to get some extra content and watch us live, you can do that by going to Destination Linux. Actually, you can do that by going to tuxdigital.com/membership. And now, you know what? I'm going to make destinationlinux.net/membership work too. So
nice.
You're kind of a magical at creating those things like in seconds anyway. So now we have a new one. Yeah.
By the time you watch this, both of those will exist. So go ahead and do that.
Just go to tuxdigital.com/membership because Michael will probably forget. Let's be honest. He has a bug in his head. He's got a big bug of forgetfulness. So.
You're not wrong about the forgetfulness part. But anyway, if you'd like to watch us live, you can do that by becoming a patron. But you also get extra perks. For example, there's a patron-only section of our Discord server that you can join and have conversation with other patrons and us as well. And on top of that, every week after the show, there is the patron-only post show that you can join and hang out with us. And you can do this by going to destinationlinux.net/membership or tuxdigital.com/membership. Both of those will work.
If they would have joined us live for this episode, they would have been able to also hang out with Wendy and Cubicle Nate from Linux Out Loud.
That's true.
I mean, you get like all the big celebs.
Double
Pseudo
whammy.
shows up, it'll just be a party. I mean,
that'd be awesome.
There you go.
And also, there are other things you can do to support the show by going to tuxdigital.com/store, where you can get all the cool stuff we have, like t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, hats, and so much more at tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Check out the awesome Linux Out Loud with Matt, Nate, and Wendy having a blast and sharing their passion for Linux and open source. And I want to put a special thank you out there to Wendy. She popped in for me last week. I had an emergency just a few hours before the show started, and she made sure that she was there, and so she could help put Michael and Ryan in line.
She did. She kept us in line. There's no doubt about it. Yeah,
It's true.
you gotta watch that episode if you guys haven't seen it yet.
It's a fun episode.
Wendy gets so angry at one point, we have to bleep her out. Let's just put it that way.
She did
So much rage.
Yeah. So, and everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our wonderful shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce. Everybody have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Do you
think centipedes look at us and go, they creep me out because they have too few legs?
They probably can't even
nothing should only have
above our
two
feet.
legs. They're thinking.
I don't think they can recognize beyond the fact that
we're too big.
I need food and this is dirt.
Yeah.
But if they could, we might be freaky looking to them, you know?
I think that's true.
Why do they only need two legs? That's disgusting.
Exactly. I think that if you like, you know, those movies that do like the talking dogs and all that sort of stuff. They need to make it like a talking centipede movie where they talk.
That movie would be a hit, Michael. You're a genius. That one. Yep. Everyone wants to see the talking centipede. You know. And
then like a centipede would have best friends of a millipede, and be like, the centipede would be like, "Why do you need so many legs to the millipede?" And it's like hilarity ensues.
I feel like you write for Disney because at this point they'll probably hire you because they're so desperate to make something. That actually
no.
Again.
They're really good at making things. It's just not good stuff anymore.
Yeah, because apparently, I don't know if you've heard about the Acolyte, but apparently it's going great for them. Fantastic.
I heard
another
about it.
Disney ruining of Star Wars has apparently taken it to such a level that it is now considered the worst. And there were some bad ones before that. So good job, Disney. You're killing it.
It's funny because it's like they learned their lesson with Marvel and still have not learned the lesson with Star Wars. Like, we want content that is good. Like, focus on that. Just, think about like, hey, what is the best way to tell a story? Well, one of those ways is to tell a story. Like, just, about characters.
Or make the story make sense and follow the canon.
Even if it doesn't follow the canon, at least make sense, if you establish a story concept and then you follow it in its own thing, you can at least get away with that. But here's actually a really good tip. If you want us to care about a story about certain characters, make the characters worth caring about.
Yeah, that's an important one because
the nice thing is that Bob Iger is trying to change that. The previous CEO was all about money. Let's put as many movies out there as we can, and they weren't good as a result of that. So now you're starting to see change, and in fact, they're going to be putting out a new version of Inside Out, which was one of their best movies because he said he wants Disney going back to the basics, back to the good storytelling and the good characters. So hopefully that's coming.
Because Acolyte came out under Bob Iger, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that wasn't his team.
And also, he wasn't gone for very long in the first place. And
through the whole pandemic, the last CEO almost killed Disney.
But didn't Iger just move to a different role? He was still part of the decisions and stuff. He just wasn't CEO or something.
He wasn't really doing much.
Hey, this is way too much show. We have another show where we could do this on called Millipedes and Centipedes. And if you tune into that, we talk about sci-fi stuff and
that is not a thing, but maybe it should be.
Millipedes and Centipedes, our new podcast.
No one would click it. Then they did. They were like, "You never talk about millipedes or centipedes."
Man,
see you next week, everybody.
See ya.